Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. I'm Rapha'Yah. We're just about to go ahead and start. We have great news. This great news has a lot to do with so many productions that we are working on. One of them is music. There is a lot of music that is coming out. This music has a lot to do with our Hebrew roots. Not the kind of music that you actually hear very often in the Christian realms or the Messianic arenas, but rather more ancient, more Middle Eastern-ish. And this one is called the Nazarene music, the Middle Eastern Nazarene music of our fathers. That is not it's kind of lost, but now it's being regained more and more, and that's what we're bringing about. If you don't know much about it, the section is right here, down here, the link. There is a new album right now. The link is right here. It's in Spanish, and if you want to listen to it, if you're multilingual, great. The link is down here. But there is another album that is coming out. The second album is coming out soon, and it's going to be all Hebrew, Hebrew Nazarene. It's coming soon, very, very soon, and I'll be sending you the links of the new release. But the newest release right now, brand new, is out in all the platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, and so many more platforms that you can listen to. Let's start off. This Parashat, Wayigash, which means and he draw near, speaks about many themes. One of them is about Yehudah and Yosef, how Yehudah draw near Joseph, pleading him to let them go. But we see so many themes here, and one of them is administration. How Joseph was able to administer the land of Mizraim, Egypt, in a way that no one else could. He was able to. He was able to put Egypt in a map in a very highest level that you can think of. He was more advanced back in the day when Joseph was alive, how he brought Egypt to the golden age of all Egypt, to be honest with you. So start off right away, and if you don't have any to write on, I would encourage you to do so you can get the most of what we're bringing right now. So once again, Parashat Wayigash, it's what we're talking today. And chapter 44, verse 18 to 47, 27, then Yehudah Wayigash, which means approach him and said, "Please, my master, let your servants speak a word in private. Do not let your anger burn against your servant, for you are like a Pharaoh himself." And what he is stating here is something that we need to take in consideration, that Joseph became the second of the Pharaoh. In other words, he became almost like a Pharaoh, almost like the king himself, to the point where the book of Yasher says very clear that Joseph became the king. The Pharaoh was up back in the back, stage back, kicking back, but Joseph was doing everything that was possible to put Mizraim, Egypt, in the map in a way that no one else could. The Egyptians saw at that time, when he saw the knowledge and the power and the ability of how he was handling situations, Egyptians saw Joseph in a highest level. Here in this situation, Yehudah knew that he was in power. He was very, very powerful, and humbling himself, he drew near Joseph. Now let's look at something very important. Right before that, when Joseph was talking to Pharaoh, he says something very important, 47:24. When the harvest times comes, you will give 20 to Pharaoh, and 80 will be yours to keep to seed the plant in the fields, as well as for your food. that is your household and the little ones. And the reason why he is using the chotmat, the ability to think rationally in a very good possible way, is to understand how the Egyptians were. He was thinking about in the side of the Egyptians. The Egyptians will keep, the farmers will keep the 80%, and 20 they will pay the Pharaoh, the same as the. It was going to be very. The administration was going to be awesome. How Yosef was able to handle these kind of situations. Where did he to learn all this? From his father, Yaakov, Israel. He was able to pass on this knowledge of the heavens, the Shemayim. But not only that, he was able to pass the knowledge of administration, and he was very good at it. Here he's doing it the same again, but very high level of knowledge, to be honest with you, that no Egyptian could actually take care of it. Look what it says in the next verse. 34, Pharaoh must do this, and he must appoint supervisors over the land to collect the 20, the tax of produce in the land of Israel during the 7 years of abundance. These 7 years of abundance was going to be a very, very good years of everything that they could possibly have in their own. But the 20% was going to be paid to Pharaoh. Now, this was a good deal, to be honest with you, because the 80% was the person was keeping to themselves, which is fair, to be honest with you. It was very, very fair. And still, they have abundance over all. Ahora, now let's jump into the next thing. These are the cisterns, okay? Here in these cisterns, we can see pretty much that Yahweh was able to make these cisterns underground, and the reason for it is because underground keeps the dry cool, and there is no moisture. The moisture is the one that brings the decay, the rotten of things. In this case, will be the grain. This is a tablet that is on Aswan, not the Nile, by the Nile River. This was found, it talks about the Yosert. Look at what it says. The hunger or still is an inscription written in hieroglyphics located in the Sahel island in the Nile, near Aswan, Egypt, which speaks of a period of 7 years of drought and famine during the reign of King Yosert. King Yosert is the same as Yosef of the third dynasty. Now, let's pause this for a moment. You have to understand something very, very crucial. All these things are being kept from our eyes. All these things are being kept by the historians, the scholars of the so-called Bible. Also, when it comes to Egyptologists, they do, in a way, deny the existence of our forefathers in Egypt. And there is a reason, good reason for it. It's because it's for the best knowledge to hide this truth to our faces. But we know for a fact that this actually happened. We know for a fact that our fathers were in Egypt, and there's a lot of, literally, there's a lot of evidence that account for this. And this is one of the examples that I'm bringing about. This is one of the complexes here in Egypt, and this must have been the entrance, or where the people were going to be entering there to buy grain during the 7 years of famine. This is one of the places where the person must be, in the case of Yosef, charging the grain, where the people who were buying from many regions of the Middle East I'm talking about Syria and all the places around Egypt. This is a grain that is rotten, there is decay, and because there is moisture available in there. When that happens, it brings little animals that will eat and they will devour the grain and will be no good to eat for humans. And that's one of the reasons why Joseph was able to avoid all these problems, these issues down the line, down the years. All this is that's a problem right there, because if you don't have grain, you don't have food. If you don't have food, there is death. There is literally death. You can see pretty much the hieroglyphics of people going down the cisterns trying to get grain. And this is the knowledge that Joseph brought to the Egyptians at that time. All this is something that we're not making it up, something that it is very noticeable when it comes to evidence that we are showing as far as hieroglyphics, as far as findings, as far as documentation that states very clear, even in the Torah itself, that our forefathers were in Egypt. But it's something that we have to bring about, and that is that the river Nile actually dried. The river Nile was a source of life for the Egyptians. The river Nile was a sort of life to also to convey themselves for transportation purposes. And it's something that even is done until today. So River Nile was completely dry, and therefore there was nowhere for the farmers to grab the water so they can plant, so they can be life in that land. No, 7 years happened, and this is a drought that completely was able to grasp the entire, not only the land of Egypt, but all the areas around. There was a complete drought of everything. No wonder why Yaakov and his sons, Josiah and his sons, were sent among other nations to Egypt to buy grain. Here we can see pretty much that the cisterns are on the above ground, and the reason why is not, well, now it is more advanced nowadays, but back in the days you cannot keep up the moisture on top, is because it brings moisture. The grain brings on the above the ground level, it brings it won't last many months, probably a year or 2 years, but not long, to be honest with you, not long, because if it's not kept the way it is supposed to be, which is dry, which is the knowledge that Joseph had, then it will be rotten. There are about 12 to 7 cisterns here in Egypt that are being found. The main one is here in the middle that was gaining all the grain from all 12 of them. And here is one of the examples that we can find in Egypt. These cisterns are the ones that Joseph had made for 7 years of abundance. The 7 years of abundance that they needed to do this in order for them to survive. 47:19, why should we die before your eyes? Buy us in our land for food. As for the people, he reduced them to slavery city by city. Who did this? Joseph. And you have saved our lives, so if it pleases my master, we will be Pharaoh's slaves. This is something that we have to be considered about many things. One of them is that we have to understand that the past repeats itself. Here, the people was able to, because they ran out of grain. They have grain, of course, because they were citizens. They have grain. But when they ran out of grain, they needed to have more grain. But because they didn't have any more grain, they needed to sell their belongings. Okay, after their belongings, they run out of their own belongings, then they start selling their land, their property, their all this was able to be produced by Joseph and buy and sell. But when they run out of everything, they have anything else to sell, they sell their bodies, they sell their lives. And that's why they were going city by city because, and in other words, the whole nation of Mizraim, Egypt, became slaves of Pharaoh. But ultimately, Joseph, because remember, Joseph is the second of Pharaoh. They all became slaves. The past repeats itself. Now, in the time of Moses, they knew that this actually happened. They flipped the script around and they say, hey, they did this to us. Now we do this to them. See how the past repeats itself, but in the negative? Shemot 1:9, and he said to his people, look, the children of Israel have become people too numerous and too powerful for us. This happened. They knew this. They knew the past because they have writings. They knew that Joseph was gone. They knew that his brothers were gone. Now they needed to take advantage of it. Verse 10, come, let us use cunning to deal with them. Otherwise, they will continue to multiply. And in the event of war, they may ally with our enemies, fight against us, and leave the land completely. This actually happened. This actually was able to maneuver with them. And the way they did it was they started building complexes. They invited the children of Israel to help out, to build among the Egyptians, and both together started building. And little by little, the Egyptians started leaving the workplace, and they left the Israelites, our forefathers, to work by themselves. At the end, they were not even getting paid, and at the end, they ended up completely as slaves. They were smart to do it. Almost the same as today. Almost the same as our workplaces. They don't even want to pay their employees. That's how bad it's getting today. The same, once again, the past repeats itself. The book of Yasher, 67, verse 21, and the king said to Balaam, what shall we do to Israel? Surely, after a certain matter, we opposed them at first and could not prevail against them. Now, therefore, I will also give your counsel against them, by which we can prevail over them. Now, Balaam knew the past of Israel because he lived like over 100 years. And when they first started as a magician, as a witchcrafter, he started at the age of 15, coming next. 67:23, and Balaam answered to the king, saying, send now and call to your two counselors. We will see what their advice is in this matter, and then your servant will speak. Here, we are looking at something very, very crucial, that Balaam did not want to convey his advice first, but rather listen to the two counselors of the Pharaoh. Who were these two counselors? Verse 24, and the king sent and called his two counselors, Reuel, and whose Reuel is Jethro, future Moshe's father-in-law, the Midianites, and Yov the Ushite, and they came and sat with the king. Now, who were these two? Very well known in the scriptures. Reuel is Jethro's, the Midianite, and Yov is the one that you find them in the book of Yov. What were their counsel? Let's find out. Jethro's counsel was this. Verse 40. Now, if it seems good to you, stop destroying the children of Israel. But if it is not your will for them to live in Egypt, send them away from here, so they can go to the land of Canaan, or Canaan, the land where their ancestors stayed. And when Pharaoh heard the words of Jethro, Reuel, he became very angry with them. He rose up ashamed from the presence of the king and went to Midian, his land, taking the staff of Joseph with him. This staff that we're talking at the very end was the staff of Ayil, the staff of the Almighty, the staff that Moshe brought from Jethro's house. And that's for another topic. The advice that Jethro gave to Pharaoh angered him. And that's one of the reasons why he left the court. Now let's look at Job. Look at what he says. And the king said to Job, the Ushite, what do you say, Job? What is your advice regarding the Hebrews? And then Job said to the king, behold, all the inhabitants of the land are in your power. Let the king do what seems good in his eyes. My question to you guys, why didn't he say something good? Why didn't he say something negative? He said it in neutral. And some things are not good in neutral. Let me explain you why I say this. He didn't say good, he didn't say bad, but he threw back the situation, the issue back to the Pharaoh himself. Sometimes we need to be straight up. Sometimes we need to be straight to the point without going around the bush. What happens to Job later? He didn't say something good. He didn't say something bad. He was neither one of them. That's one of the reasons why he was tested later. That's one of the reasons why in the book of Job, Satan came and asked the Creator himself, what about your guy here? Why don't you do something with him? And Yahweh said, okay, I'll give you permission to test him, but don't kill him. That's one of the reasons why he was tested, to see whether you are from me or against me. Sometimes we need to be straight, because if we are not straight to the things of Yahweh, we will be tested, and tested very dearly. Let's continue. Look at who is Bilam. 61 verse 8 of the book of Yasher, and among the servants of Angias there was a young man of 15 years old. Bilam, son of Beor, was his name, and the young man was very wise and understood the arts of witchcraft. He was a wizard, in other words. And Angias said to Bilam, conjure for us and beg you with your witchcraft, that we may know who will prevail in the battle we are about to have now. And there appeared to him in the waters the images resembling the host of Angias, falling before these images of the Egyptians and the sons of Jacob. We have to understand something very important. If Yahweh is with us, who is against us? No matter what Bilam was doing, no matter what witchcraft was working on, Yahweh always has a shield around us. No one will touch us. It's just straightforward. And he was not able to do whatever he was doing. His witchcraft went over our fathers. Verse 27, 64:27. And Sephotheth said to Bilam, try divination for us, so that we may know who will prevail in the battle, us or the Egyptians. The Egyptians were where our fathers were, and they were fighting for the Egyptians. And Bilam rose up and tried the art of divination, and he was skilled in the knowledge of it. But he was very confused, and the work was destroying his hands. And he tried again, but it was unsuccessful. And Bilam despaired of it and left it incomplete. That means it did not continue. For this was from Yahweh, in order to make Sephah and his people fall into the hands of the sons of Israel. Do you see that? Who had trusted in Yahweh, the mighty one of their ancestors in their war. Here we can see pretty much that no matter what Bilam was doing, they were not going to succeed on their work. The work was to win over the Egyptians / sons of Israel. Our ancestors. We have to understand something. After the drought, after the abundance, after all this, they were living there in Egypt. Okay? So when they were living in Egypt, they were working, for them to have an abundance. So when war came, guess who was in war? The sons of Israel winning for Egypt. You see that? We need to watch a movie like that. We need to see a movie like that that was never seen before. Now, once again, it's something we have to understand, something that we have to completely use our imagination, and hopefully one day a movie can come out like this. But we can see pretty much that Balaam was trying to do this and they cannot succeed. This is the same Balaam that later he's giving the advice to Pharaoh in the time of Moses. Remember that Balaam lived over 100 years. 70 verse 5 of Yasher, Balaam son of Beor, the magician, answered before the king and the princess and said, remember now, O my master and king, the dream that you have dreamed many days since then, and what your servant interpreted to you. Who was this servant? Himself, Balaam. He interpreted the Pharaoh's dream, that he dreamed that there was another king that was going to rise, and who was that king that was going to take over that Pharaoh? Was Moses. And that's one of the reasons why they needed to do something about it. And Balaam knew about this. So we end here, because we'll continue next Shabbat with the next Torah portion. But we leave in a cliffhanger about what's going to happen the next Shabbat. I'm Moreh Rapha'Yah. We'll see you next time. And please be in tune, because there's so much music coming up very, very soon that is going to lift us up to continue to the things of Yahweh, our Creator. We'll see you next time. Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.
Give us a like. Thank you. We'll begin.
Toda Rabba. If you like this video, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. There's more content in production. Thank you.